Hi, I'm Maureen Micki Carroll, and I'm here today with other authors. We are authors with an axe, and here to talk about writing topics. I'm going to let each of my authors introduce themselves. Amber, you
You
want
want
to
me-
start?
Okay, I'm Amber Fraley. I live in Lawrence, Kansas. I teach a basic writing class at the University of Kansas. I also freelance a lot for Lawrence Magazine and Kansas Magazine, and I've written a couple of books.
Kathleen?
I'm Kathleen Kaska. I am from Texas, but I'm living in Washington State right now. And I'm the author of two mystery series, the Sidney Lockhart mystery series set in the 1950s, and the Kate Carraway Animal Rights series. And I've been writing for about 35 years. I started with nonfiction and gradually went into fiction. And that's what I do.
Galit?
I'm Gottlieb, and I am the author of the Whipped and Sipped Mystery series, which are going to be re-released starting at the end of this month by Amber Fraley Press. And I also write lots of essays and cranky political rants.
Love it. Welcome to you all. Thanks for joining us today. And Amber and I have been doing Authors with an Axe for a while now, and we enjoy having three parts to this. There's a topic we'll discuss that's a general writing topic, and then we get into kind of a hot topic, and then we're going to interview our two authors, Kathleen and Galit. And I am the editor in chief of Anam Press, and we will post this on as a YouTube video. So, and information about these authors and their books you can find down below. And so, our main topic to get started with today is social media, using social media as an author. So, right now, we're doing this social media activity by having an author interview and posting it on social media. As authors, I'm wondering what are the ways that you use social media and how do you not get burned out on social media?
I want to say that no matter what we do, it's not enough,
That's true.
all of us.
Yeah.
So Kathleen and I follow each other. We all follow as many people as we can and support. I love supporting other authors, but no matter how, it's never enough. So, and I've built up 6,400 followers on my author page on Facebook, but I
Wow.
think the algorithm doesn't show, maybe shows a few of them every day, every time I post. I definitely post twice a week on Facebook and Instagram. There's a bunch of other things we're supposed to be doing. I don't, maybe not yet. I write on medium.com. I just recently got a Substack. I have 23 followers. Yay. I started Blue Sky. Not even sure what that is. Um, but I try to post, I do author interviews, host for New Books and Literature, a podcast channel on the New Books Network, and have interviewed over 250 authors. But I have now recently started adding those when those podcasts go live. I I post them everywhere possible, but now I've added Blue Sky and Substack and a few others whose names I don't know by heart.
What are
So
you doing,
I think
Kathleen?
we all have a Medium account then. Is that true? Are we all like ranting on Medium? Well, Kathleen doesn't really rant. I rant, but it sounds like you rant as well, Galit.
I do. I wish I had come up with a different name to rant, but okay.
I also rant on Medium at least a little bit, but
Yeah, I should do that more, but I don't. But you can't do everything. I mean, social media is just bigger than life. And I just have to pick and choose. Otherwise, it just consumes all my time. So I focus on Facebook and I post every now and then on Twitter. And I have a newsletter that I put out. I do it maybe, oh, probably an average of once a month because I don't like to post a newsletter with just nonsense. I like it to be meaningful and I know that a lot of times I'll get newsletters from people two or three times a week and I can't keep up with all that. So I
Yeah.
try to be respectful and publish my newsletters when I have something important to say. But when I started writing, there was no social media. There was none. And so it's a different world now. And
Your newsletters are really interesting. I've learned a lot from you always write growing up Catholic in Texas. Is that the
yes,
town? Right.
growing up Catholic in a small Texas town.
Right. I know nothing about Texas. I know nothing about growing up in a small town. I know nothing about being Catholic. So it's all really interesting.
It is.
It's great newsletter. It's very
I started that when I was in Toastmasters and they wanted me to give a speech about my childhood. And I thought, no, I don't want to do that. But I had to. And then I just started it and it was fun and I kind of put a humorous twist to it and it went off really well. And then they said, we want more of those stories. And then so I turned it into a blog. And it's been fun. It really has.
Amber, what's your social media strategy?
Oh, geez. So my page, I try to be a little cheeky and naughty and poke the bear a little bit on mine. I like to gather memes, funny memes, and just throw those up because it's easy. Like, especially if I'm having a day where I just have low self-esteem or whatever, it's easy to just throw up a meme. I have not been writing on Medium nearly as much as I was during COVID. I was really hammering out the Medium articles, and I grew my audience to over 3,000 people there. And those you can share online as well. Once you get those done, like instead of just being within your Medium audience, you can, share those to a wider audience on your social media. I need to get back to doing that. I haven't been as attentive with my Facebook page as I should be. I don't do a lot on Instagram, probably should. But I like Facebook better. So
Yeah,
it's
Yeah,
it's
hit and
here's
miss.
the bad
interesting.
thing. Nobody under millennials and below and above, only boomers, right?
Right.
Read Facebook. It's my audience. It's probably your audiences too.
And
But
Gen Xers, yeah.
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 Well, it's interesting because it's where we have gotten comfortable. And so I think like book talk, bookstagram, those are probably being used by more younger authors and probably more younger readers. So I did work with somebody who had built up an audience of 60,000 on TikTok. But that's somebody who's posting not just every day, many times a day. And so now we start to get into this influencer category. And I don't know, for me personally, to write is an introverted activity where you go down a wormhole. And when you're down in there, you're in this beautiful imaginary place that's so enjoyable. And that is not a place where I can share on social media from. I have to climb out of that hole and come into the light, into a different world where I'm not creating to then talk about stuff. It's a whole different experience. So I don't find that it really works well with my creative flow. Does anybody else experience that where it's like you have to kind of be like a taskmaster to yourself? It's like you're a creative, but now you have to get busy and work at sharing the information that you love so much.
Yeah, yeah. I just like fight with myself, It's like I don't want to do this now. I just want to get back to my writing. And then, once I get into, sharing and posting, a whole day has gone by. But it's kind of like a love-hate thing, You love doing it. It's fun. You can connect with so many authors and readers and what your family is doing all the time, and it's good. I love that, but it does take up a lot of time, and I'm not. I'm like you, Micki. I can't just go from one to the other, and I just can't share my whole life on book talk every time I'm doing it. Okay, I'm writing this, I'm writing that, I'm thinking that. My brain doesn't work that way.
Right. So it becomes a discipline almost, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Kathleen, how do you've disciplined yourself to do this twice a week?
twice a week. And The rest of the week, I don't worry about writing anything, but I do spend about 15, 20 minutes every evening randomly scrolling. And I admit that I stop at the good looking recipes for pastries and cake. But I really dislike when authors are just saying, buy my book, also buy my book, and have I mentioned my book? I have an essay with that title. It's just, that's not how I will never buy a book just because the author is saying buy my book and also buy my book. But I do buy books from randomly, scrolling when somebody that I know recommends it, right?
Good point.
Right.
Recommendation.
It's
Yeah.
other people saying, I loved this book.
Yep.
So
And also,
how do we as authors, and okay, I want to say one more thing. I know somebody who does she's wonderful. She does a huge amount of reviews. She's the person to go to if you want to read. She does it every week, so disciplined. She will not put up a review that isn't phenomenal. So every review is 5-star reviews, which either she's getting the best books to read or every book is worth 5 stars. So then I can't really follow or buy those books because I don't know.
right.
Oh, that's a good point.
I need to see lots of different kinds of reviews, right? Great book, but I didn't love the end or whatever that I could really worth reading because it's so awesome. I wasn't particularly in love with the end. That would give me that idea, like I'll still buy it. You're saying you love it, but not
Yeah.
if
Making sure that, have you actually even really read the book? Because sometimes you wonder about those sites, when they're recommending. But I really agree that it's authors helping authors. I'm a reader. Most authors that I know are avid readers too. And as we read, if we remember, and I try to do this now for every book I read that I love, is go ahead and leave them a review. Go on Goodreads or go on Amazon or go on Barnes and Noble and leave a review for that author. You don't have to know them to leave a review. And those reviews feel like, paying it forward in some way.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
we want a review, we leave reviews for others. But finding ways for authors to help authors, Galit, I think that is
That's
gold.
it.
That is gold right there.
So it's not just putting the review on all those sites that you mentioned. I focus on BookBub for the mysteries that I read, and I do at least one a week where it goes on BookBub. So that if you look at my BookBub, there's only mysteries, and you think, what kind of person is this who only reads death and destruction? Um, but there's it's not just that, it's just also putting it on your Facebook page, like, here's my review of this book.
See, that's
Oh,
why,
yeah.
yeah. And that
So it's
recommended
content.
by, that's a recommended by part that both helps
Yeah.
you and helps the author.
And I love to see it paid forward. And I also love when this happens, like this just recently happened, that I was talking to somebody, actually speaking, not just online, and said, I just read a fabulous book this week. You've got to read it. It's called Port Anna, set in Maine. I know you love Maine. Whatever. I just said it. And then I follow that person on Facebook, and I'm reading through, and somebody on Facebook said, I just need one. I'm going on vacation. I need a great, juicy read. Does anybody have anything? And this friend that read that book and then on someone else's page said, I just read this book about set in Maine, Port Anna.
Right.
I love that. It's
Yeah,
paying it forward.
that's right.
I want to contact that author and say, did you by any chance get a bump on Tuesday?
Yeah, because there is, I really agree. When I hear people just say, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, those people often get a bad reputation among other authors. Because if it's constant self-promotion, which there's nothing wrong with self-promoting your book. There is
No.
nothing wrong with that. But it starts to feel tired and they're not really saying anything new. And I think that that's the trap that we fall into as authors, is we don't know what to say. What do we say about our book? I mean, we wrote it. Have any of you tried using, your characters as a vehicle for discussing your book without saying, buy my book?
Mm-hmm. I've,
Have
I've
you
done
done
that.
that?
I've done that a few times when I was a guest on other authors' blogs. And sometimes I would do an interview with Sydney, my main character, and I would let her talk. And so, that was one thing. And then, or either both of us would have a conversation, or a conversation between my characters in the book. So just different things like that, just to bring a different twist on it, say rather than saying this is my book and this is what it's about.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Any other thoughts on social media? What do you think, Amber?
I mean, I think it just has to be, yeah, you can't be constantly buy my book, buy my book. I think it's about connecting with people and your readers. And I think when you're a writer, I think people want to know more about you. I think a lot of people who are not writers are kind of fascinated by writers, and they're just interesting to sort of, or they're interested in hearing what makes us tick. And so I think any writer can entertain people on social media, because that's kind of our skill. And I think that's why probably all of us gravitate more toward Facebook, because it's more writing based than something like Instagram,
Mhm.
or book talk. But that does sort of fascinate me, how younger writers are apparently able to connect more of the visual social media with a writing uh, medium. I don't know. I haven't figured that out.
Well,
I would
I
like to see
appreciate it.
authors do more interesting stuff about themselves and not just about their book. Like while they're talking, maybe show a picture of their book, but like tell me what's the best vanilla ice cream you've tasted, or where, which something about like not just food, but that you went on a vacation somewhere and it was so awesome that everybody should do that place or stay away from that. I want more info because I'll
Right.
read that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love hearing Stephen King talk about growing up in Maine,
Yeah.
and then he connects that with how most of his books are set in Maine. Um, Ain't nothing wrong with that. Write what you know.
And Kathleen, did you have a follow-up too?
Well, yes, I like it when I get a newsletter or something across social media that tells me more about the author and what they're doing and what they like. And Galit, you mentioned, your recipes that you put on there. I really appreciate that, because I know who you are. I know you more intimately rather than just knowing that you're an author out there with a book. And so on my newsletter, I will feature recipes and I'll put books by other authors that I've read and feature those. And then I put where I went on vacation and what I'm doing. So I don't want to send out a newsletter just asking someone to buy my book. I want to offer them something besides that. And I appreciate that when other authors do it as well.
This is
Yeah.
probably absolutely useless, but in my newsletters, I have a picture each month of a puzzle that I do 1,000-piece puzzles. And I put a picture, it's like not helpful for anyone. Nobody needs to see it, but it's fun for me because otherwise, you know how you spend hours doing a puzzle and then you break it up?
Right.
I'm using mine as a picture on my newsletter. So it's getting double duty.
Yeah.
Use
I
that.
love that. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
cool.
That's good. And to me, what I love about this and where we're headed with this is, to me, it gets us into our hot topic of AI, artificial intelligence. Because right now, I understand that up to 60% of all the stuff on social media is AI generated. And if I see your puzzle, Galit, I know you're a real human being.
Right.
You tell me about your book and the characters in it, Kathleen, and you come from the perspective of talking as your character. I believe you actually made that character up.
Yeah.
Right now, we have a publisher, and I'm not going to use any names in this. You can look this stuff up. There's probably more than one, But there's a big deal with a publisher who put out an AI romantasy book, romantic fantasy, and they said it was a pseudonym, an author, a real author, but it was their pseudonym. Well, all the readers that started to leave feedback on the book was like, this sounds like it was written by AI. Who is the real person behind it? I don't think there's a person behind it. And in fact, there's no person behind it. It was an AI generated book actually produced by a real publisher. They put out an AI generated book and they tried to get fans for their AI generated book. So there's a publisher out there, at least one, trying to get rid of their authors or replace their authors, I should
Oh
say.
no.
Replace their authors with AI generated. How do y'all feel about that?
But did
Well,
they get caught? Like you're saying
oh,
you
this is now out. This is out. You can just Google it and you'll find out the book that I'm talking about and the publisher I'm talking about. I'm not going to use names, but this is happening. Like I said, if you Google it, you'll probably find more than one.
So what happens if somebody wants to contact that author and put in book a book signing?
Well, they
They
tried
can't.
Right.
and couldn't. They tried.
Oh,
Everybody tried.
yeah.
That's what happened is people tried to contact the author. No author.
but
All
they
no,
didn't try to contact the author to do book signings because the book was probably terrible.
yes. That's what that was the feedback was that there were tells that the book was, generated, AI generated. And like the six fingers, we think of AI as being really smart. It's so amazing. But I don't know about y'all. You can catch it and it's boring. Um, there's AI videos out there too, and I don't want to get off the topic, but how do we compete as authors with our using our imaginations? It takes a lot of time to write a book when AI is a push of the button and suddenly somebody's, got a manuscript in their hand. I wrote this.
Well, if you publish a book on Amazon, if you self-publish, I found this out because I did two little books with my great niece. I published a little book with her. Um, Amazon asks you how much of this book is generated by AI, and you have to give them a percentage. And so I don't know what Amazon is doing with that, but they do ask when you try to self-publish a book on Amazon.
Oh, Amazon is actually pushing AI books because they're making money off it. They're
Oh yeah,
pushing people to create and generate their own AI books so that Amazon can get their cut, which
yeah.
is just so gross.
I
Like
just
they're
want to play
openly
devil's
advertising
advocate
it.
here. Um, you know, I have read some just terrible books for whatever reason, where people give me books to read and I'll read the first few chapters and won't continue, whatever. And I'm thinking some of those people could really have used some AI.
Yeah, AI as a tool is different than AI as the creator because
Mhm.
AI as a creator isn't and can't. All it can do is steal, right?
Right.
All it's
Right.
doing is scraping the bottom of the internet for whatever the keywords are that you fed into it. But
Well, the people who created it used all of our published books, who knows how many, to
Right.
feed it. So they're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. They're scraping the best authors and the most interesting books and everything out of the public domain and everything not out of the public domain.
right,
Right?
but it
What's
still can't think and put it together. Sorry, go ahead, Amber.
No, I was going to say what's starting to happen now, though, is that now that there's more and more AI generated writing out there, the AI programs are scraping their own AI generated writing, and the system is starting to eat itself. And it's
Wow.
kind of breaking AI at this
Oh
point.
gosh.
And they do these repetitive phrases like although, in spite of,
Mhm.
like there's always these openings. And so like all the sentences, and now they're just going to be, the whole sentence is going to be, although despite the, in spite of,
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That is so true.
cannibalizing.
I had
Yeah,
an experience.
cannibalizing. Yes,
I had an
yes.
experience with AI recently, and it was a surprise. Um, someone, a fellow author, was putting something on a writers group newsletter. And so, and I'm not criticizing at all. I was very appreciative, but he wanted us to send him a character bio, talk about our characters. And he had certain questions. So I answered all the questions about my character and I sent it in. But then he sent me back an interview between him and my character. And it's like, oh my gosh, you must have read every book I've ever written. This is so good. You nailed it. And you were talking to the real Sydney. And he said that was AI generated. And I went, wow.
So did he feed your book into AI?
No, I don't know how he did it. He just took my information on Sydney. And I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but he just pulled it all together and they spit it out. And it was Sydney. It was her doing what she does. It was her voice.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, wow. So that
Now,
was a real eye opener. I had no idea. Uh,
now I've been using AI since it came out.
yeah,
Um, I have because I want to experiment. I'm one of those people that it's like, oh, there's something new and people are doing something with it. I have to find out what it is.
right.
And so I'm not, I don't fear technology. I'm not afraid of it. I don't think it's going to come to life and eat us. Um,
Good
I think
thing.
it's much more likely to break, like Amber's talking about, and we're all going to start laughing pretty soon. It's just a tool, but it is a good tool for some things.
It is.
Here's the trouble: is there is, I don't know, I know that this is a general topic, so again, I don't want to name names. There's probably a lot of different software programs, but there's at least one software program that will tell you as an author that you can put your book into the software program and it won't be part of the general internet for people to steal from. It'll just be part of their software program so that you can create book descriptions and things like that using AI from your book. And that software might be valuable. And that's like Grammarly. Grammarly
Mhm.
is AI.
It is.
And it's using AI to help you, reword in ways, that are more grammatical, right?
Mhm.
It can't create, it can only help structure based on what grammar is formalized. The trouble is if you put your own book into chat AI or one of the, you know, other open AI systems, that book goes in there for everybody. And now you've just given it your work. Of course, they're stealing those works and they have the ability to pirate those works from I don't know how many different locations. I've found my books pirated before, so I know it's happening. So the deal is that it is a good tool in for authors to use for some kind of structure, for coming up with ideas for, plot, where you might want to go with your plot, for summarizing, for creating lists. There is a good tool for some things. But when we depend on it to do anything like think, it's not at all going to work out for us. I think that that's my bottom line. And the worst part is the theft.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a difference between asking AI, what are possible outcomes for this, or who are possible murderers, or questions of that sort, than asking AI, uh, please come up with three red herrings and a murder and three possible people who did it and the way they did it and why.
Exactly.
There's a
Because when
difference.
it does that, it's stealing from other ideas, and you may not realize that you've just put something in your book that doesn't belong to you. That's not your thought, and somebody else will notice it at some point,
Yeah.
right? And that's one of the reasons in writing, in doing the writing I'm doing now. Um, I'm deliberately not reading new books on my topic because I don't want to accidentally, I mean, as an author, I don't want to accidentally take somebody's idea from their book and work it into mine. And that's not using AI, that's just using my messed up mind.
Yeah, but remember, you saw like Gone with the Wind, and
Exactly.
that doesn't mean you can never have a character make a dress out of curtains.
Exactly. And so all the things I've read in the past are certainly part of my creation process now. But I, like I said, I'm deliberately not reading those books because I don't want it to impact my writing and have it be stealing modern stuff. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you have an editor named Amber, but you have
That's
an
right.
editor who would say, yeah, I think I read a book, or this seems a little strangely familiar.
Oh, I don't read as much as I should.
Well, we're on, and people write in different genres as well. So I don't know. I think AI is something that we have to be wary of, but if we can't be afraid of.
We have to learn how to use it correctly, and we have to make use of it because other countries, other societies are more advanced actually than we are here in the United States. And they're using it to do some really cool stuff. Hey, what about if we decide what if you decide you want to publish books in other languages, in other countries? Huge market for mysteries, let's say, in Brazil. I don't know. And you think to yourself, do I hire someone to translate or do I use AI?
Oh, you still need a person. If you
Yeah.
Okay, an
if you
editor at the end.
if you have to, and that's the thing I fight with my students about in my writing class because they use chat GPT constantly and I have to tell them there's tells a lot of the time. I can tell when they do it. I can't always because it's getting better. But the thing I tell them is it's not saving you time. It's not saving you time when you ask it to write something for you and you turn in a pile of crap to me. If you're going to use the AI and then take the time to clean it up so that I can't tell that it's AI, you might as well have just written the damn thing yourself, you know? It's
And it would have
so
been more
accurate.
interesting. It would have been more
Yes,
interesting. But
right.
using the chat AI in the way that Galit has described, where you're
Right.
saying,
That's
okay, what are
different.
three possible outcomes for this?
Right.
There are ways that it can be used as a tool that might be
Absolutely.
effective for authors, as opposed to write a story that sounds like Stephen King wrote it.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and because it'll do that for you, but it's not likely to be good.
Right. And like I mentioned to you the other day, I think we could figure out a way to use AI to like generate metadata lists from a book. But
Yeah, the trouble is we have to pay for the software.
oh,
So otherwise, we're
the
putting the book into an
the
open system
public,
that anybody in the world can steal from. We've just now
right,
exposed the author to um, potential theft that
right.
they
And
might
I
be
was talking,
anyway. That's
Wasn't it always the case that as soon as your book is published, there are unscrupulous people in the world
true,
who can take a printed book and copy things and ideas?
true,
yeah, but it's like taking your manuscript and not having your name on it and just handing out copies,
Hmm, right.
right? To put it into chat AI, it's just like giving it away because now it's going to be part of the whole repertoire without attribution, right? Without attribution. That's the deal.
Okay, so you're saying be wary, but don't be afraid of it.
Bam. That's what I think.
yeah,
That sounds
It's
like all humanity. Be wary,
It
but don't be
does.
yes,
afraid.
yeah, I think
Humans
that's
too.
it.
Same advice for humans.
Yeah, that's it. I'm with you there. So I don't know. We probably should segue to our interview. Amber,
yes.
you got some great questions for Kathleen and Galit. I'm excited to hear their responses.
Okay, so this has been looming with me lately, just when I read mystery stories or watch a mystery on TV. Do you write your books back to front? Do you start with the ending, knowing who did it, and kind of work the plot backwards? I'm not a mystery writer, so I feel like that's how you have to do it, but maybe I'm totally wrong.
No, I'm what's called a pantser. I start writing and I don't know where I'm going to go.
Wow.
And I just kind of let my characters direct me. And often close to the end of the book and I don't know who the killer is.
That blows me away, Kathleen.
Or I think I know who the killer is, and
You
then I
change your
find out it's
mind?
somebody else. So the best way I can describe it is I write my books like I read books. I don't know what's going to happen. I'll start off with I'll put Sydney in a certain location, and I know there's going to be a murder pretty quickly, and I know she's going to be the suspect, but I have all my characters. I have my family of characters that are going to be in there, but I don't know where it's going to go.
Wow.
And it's easy for me to write that way until I get to, the hard work starts when I'm about three-quarters finished. And I'm thinking, I got to fix this. I got to get a handle on this. And that's where the work starts. And so yeah, so I don't know who the killer is until, until my characters tell me.
You just blew up my mind. How about you, Glee? Do you do the same
So
thing?
Kathleen has written about 5 times more books than I have because I have 3 published, one ready to come out next spring, and then a fifth one in the series for as soon as I manage to finish. And I have done each book a little bit differently, but my first book, I wasn't quite sure how to do that. So I think I was a pantser. And every week when I met with my lovely editor, I would bring a few more chapters or one chapter and I'd say, can you guess who did it? And if she ever guessed the person I thought did it, I'd say nope, and I would change it. And that went all the way to the
That's a
end,
good
though
way
I
to do
also
it.
didn't know. But I had that other feedback from somebody else saying, guessing. That was
That's
Great
great.
brilliant.
process.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
What else?
Hmm.
I thought
But this
you
book
had
that I'm working on for the last book in the series, I'm thinking working title is Grilled. Although my husband wants me to write one called Gefilte. We have um, just like a silly version of it, farce of it. So that one I'm doing a lot more outlining. I'm outlining and I'm trying to see how that works. And I'm working on the red herrings and all the different possibilities. And I do know the few people who it could be. You know how we're not allowed in mysteries to just have like a vagrant coming through town and being the culprit?
Right.
Right. So it has to be someone we've met. So I'm working on that.
That blows me away.
I'm curious about how do you develop your main characters? Because especially in a cozy mystery, that main character is it has to fill a lot of roles for the reader. If they have to be comfortable with the person, they have to really like the person, get into their shoes, and yet you're putting them in this situation where they're involved in a murder. How do you develop those main characters from book to book? I guess is my question.
Over to you, Kathleen.
Um, they walk into my life. They just walk into my life and say, you got to hear this. That's what Sydney did. The first book was Murder at the Arlington. My books take place in different historic hotels. We were staying at the Arlington. We were late getting up into our room, and we finally got in our room. And I was thinking, well, what could be the issue that we couldn't get our room? So we finally got in there, and I'm unpacking, and Sydney walks out of the bathroom and says, "You got to come in here and see this." So I went in, and there's a dead man in the bathtub. She goes, "It wasn't me, I promise." And then she tells me the story. So I didn't start off deciding I was going to write a book about Sydney. She came to me and, said, "Here I am, here's my story." Um, but and that blows me away. But I think the more you use your imagination, the bigger your imagination becomes. And it kind of, is like almost your alter ego. And with my Kate Caraway books, that was a little different. I knew I wanted to write a series that dealt with animal rights causes. And I used to be a rehabilitator for wildlife rescue in Austin, so I wanted my character to be that. So I pretty much designed Kate, but I didn't design Sydney. She just walked into my life.
That is so fascinating.
So much cooler than the way I come up with my characters. I would love somebody to walk out of the bathroom. That must have been so spooky, though.
Well, how did you decide to make your sleuth be a food person?
Um,
Because
because
she runs a cafe, right?
right, and I have never had the dream of running a restaurant of any kind and knew nothing about it, except I was a waitress in high school, so there's that. But I knew nothing. And I made up so much stuff. And then I checked with somebody, like friends who knew to say, like, would this really happen? Um, the way I came up with my two main characters that I have been told, I'm not sure of the validity of this, that I have a tendency to be judgmental. I'm just saying
What? A judgmental writer?
it's a rumor. And I wanted a character who went over the top of doing that. Oh, you say I'm judgmental. I'll show you judgmental. She thinks, and I have gotten criticism for this in the first book, but my character, Aileen Barron, thinks everybody is potentially a murderer. Okay, so I live in the middle of a city. We have seen some terrible things here. Bad things happen everywhere. I've seen bodies pulled up from the lake. We live close to Lake Michigan and we could buy a harbor. And bad things happen, right? And so I'm imagining those bad things happening all the time. And when something bad happens, we hear gunshot, whatever. Then everybody I see that day, every car that passes by,
Sure.
I'm like, wonder where you were last night. That kind of thing. I am that, but not as bad as my character. She's worse. And then my
I,
other character is the pastry chef, and she's like such a sweetheart, so angelic. And I have a couple of girlfriends who have always shocked me at how kind and wonderful they are. Like something will happen, and my first thought is to like, can you believe that? And their first thought is, I feel so bad for them.
I'm with you. I'm that.
I feel so bad, or are you?
No, I'm like you. Like, can you
And
believe
I
that
wanted to
crap?
write a character
Yeah,
who's a conglomeration of all these several lovely people whose minds work in a different who I wish I was more like. I wish I
right.
could emulate their kindness and
I
empathy.
also just realized that you two, so Kathleen, because you write cozy mysteries, and Kathleen uses the vehicle of the hotels, the historic hotels, and then Galit, you use food and coffee in your books a lot of the time. And I think that's a fascinating combination because there's something about historic hotels that are mysterious and comforting and make I think add to your cozy mystery. And then I love reading about food. I have always loved reading about food scenes in books. There's something about that that's so comforting to me. And that just seems like a really great vehicle for your books as well, Galit, the food aspect.
You know how thrillers and suspense books, like nobody stops to have a cup of coffee or lunch,
Right,
let alone going to the bathroom or taking a nap.
right.
Or when I first started reading, my first mysteries that I read were Rex Stout. It's
Oh,
just like
sure.
so wonderful. And Archie and his characters eat these gourmet meals. They're
yeah.
disgusting sounding to me. It's a lot of meat. I don't eat meat. But I wouldn't ever make it. But a lot of times in reading these kind of books where they say they had dinner, but like, well, what did they eat? And where's the
Right.
recipe for it?
Right.
I agree. I agree with you too. Yeah, I like that. I like to know what they're eating and what they're drinking, and and I don't know if that's true of cozies, but those are the books I like to read. That's why I like to read yours, Galit, is that I love the food element. I mean, they're great mysteries. I love that, but I also enjoy the food element. So,
But yours are a little bit cozy. You don't have swearing. We don't see the trajectory of the bullet and the way the blood flows that, ruins everything. I always say to people, like in my books, if blood falls on a rug, you find out she never liked that rug and wanted to change it anyway. Right? But yours are easy to read. When I read your book, I wasn't like gagging.
no,
You
yeah.
they didn't keep me up at night. So maybe they're not the specifically cozy, but cozy readers would enjoy them.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd consider them both cozy. I mean, I'd consider both of your books cozy books on at least some level. Even
Cozies have all these rules now, which
yeah, yeah, but
so
Oh,
what?
how
really?
it makes you feel, right? At the end, how do you feel about it? I think that for me, that what is it, like you said, it doesn't keep you up at night.
Well,
What are the
there's not
rules for a
there's
cozy
not a lot
mystery?
of graphic violence or sex or like Gaelic said, not a lot of profanity. Um,
Like
but
none,
yeah,
no profanity.
well, I'll use some like my mother. I use my mother's profanity. When she was really mad, she would say "shit, damn, and hell" all at once.
That's true.
So
Cover the bases.
I use that. And then in the Kate Caraway book, the F word comes out every now and then, but that's a little more of a suspense. Uh, but nothing is really graphic, and I don't read that,
Right.
Yeah.
so I'm not going to write it. So
I think your books are a little edgy, though, Kathleen, because Sydney is edgy. I mean, she is a woman in the 50s doing and saying things that women in the 50s did not do or say. And that is fun.
You mean most
well,
women?
Yeah,
Most
most
women,
women.
yes.
when I started writing Sydney, it was going to be set in current time. And then I wanted to do something special about it. I wanted to switch it up. So I thought, okay, what if I took this spunky woman who was easy to be spunky and stubborn and pursuing a career in our time, but then putting her back in the 1950s is going to make it a lot different.
Hmm.
So that's why I decided to switch the time on the book.
That's very interesting. And I'm curious too, Amber, you asked, what are the rules of cozy mystery? Do you guys have some rules you can give us for other cozy mystery writers that want to know?
I'll tell you the
Well,
sex
what
rules.
what I've heard is that there's not an official, your main character's not investigating a murder in a official capacity. They're not a member of the police force. They're not
Oh,
a member of FBI. It could be a private detective, or it could be like Miss Marple, just an ordinary person out there trying to solve a crime. That's one of the characteristics.
That's
oh.
cool.
So the sex is fun.
Sex
So
is fun, not sad. Yeah.
no, the sex is that the boyfriend or the husband, whatever, or depends, the partner, whoever they're dating, makes them a delicious dinner and says, "No, honey, I'll clean up. You go watch, and she
Go
goes,
take a bubble bath.
watch The Crown." Yeah. And then while she's watching, he vacuums the whole apartment.
That's why we love to read these. That's right. That's exactly right.
That's
So
the
I have,
sex. Oh, I'm sorry. And at the very end, he wraps his warm arms around her. The door closes. I'm satisfied
yeah,
with
yeah,
that ending.
Fade to black. No, no actual sex, just fade to black.
yeah. Let the imaginations do the work.
Right.
So I've got one more question. I know we're running out of time here, but I've got one more question, and that is, Kathleen, you alluded to, as a pantser, having to get to the end of the book and then having it be a lot of work. And I'm in that position myself where I've tied myself in a knot at the end of the book and I have to untie all the knots that I've made. It reminds me of combing hair, when you start at the top and you get a bunch of rats at the bottom because you need to stop at the bottom, work up. So I'm kind of coming back to Amber's question. Is there ever a time when it's easier to work up from the end, or when you get down to the knots at the bottom, how do you unravel it? How do you figure out your own as a pantser, how do you figure it out? And then for you, Galit, have you planned it all out, or are you still pantsing on some part of this? So that's what I'm curious about.
Um, well, I tried when I first started writing fiction to outline, and it didn't work for me, not at all. So that's when I started just, writing off the top of my head. But when I get to that point where I have to fix everything and make everything work and tie up all the loose ends, then I have a notebook with me and I'm reading and reading and then I'm writing notes and making notes about what happened when and I'm looking at the time frame and then I'm seeing if I could fit this in or that in. So it's almost like playing chess at the end. You've got to figure out where your moves are going to be. And sometimes it can be kind of frustrating, but I've done it enough to where, I know it's going to come together eventually. And sometimes it blows my mind. It's like, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? And then, I just keep doing it piece by piece by piece, taking notes and looking at scenes. Define my scenes and I have them all laid out. And then I just kind of start putting it together. And when it works, it's like, okay, I know it's done.
So you
It's
might
more
go
like
back through and make
Tetris.
changes. Sorry,
I
I go
go
through
back
and
and
make
make a
changes.
lot of changes. Yeah, I'll make a lot of changes because I might go off, decide in chapter 10, I'm going in this direction. And then in chapter 15, I realize I didn't go in that direction at all. So I have to go back there and, and change it. Um, so that's why before I send my manuscript to you, Micki, I have it read by probably 10 beta readers
Right.
just to make sure that I pulled everything together. Because my mind is like, well, what did I write? And what did I decide to keep? And what did I decide to let go of? You know, so, but it works eventually. It works.
That's fun. Glee, what have you discovered in your process?
I was thinking that it's more like Tetris, like picking up the whole piece
Oh,
and moving things around. Um, my process. I'm hoping I get more streamlined. I want to be more like Kathleen. I want to know that it's going to fall into place. And I like the idea of letting 10 beta readers see it before giving it to Micki.
Yeah.
I hadn't planned that. It's a really good idea.
Are you a
Well,
pantser too on some level then? I mean,
Mhm.
you like to outline, but you're also winging it.
I'm just trying to outline on this one to see if I can do it,
Gotcha.
to see if it's a better experience. I'm looking for all of this to be fun.
yeah.
I think that's a big goal, isn't it?
it is. It
Yeah.
We
is.
have fun writing, and we want people to have fun reading.
Yes.
Also, did you ever read Becky Clark's 8 weeks to a full novel? So she's a Colorado Sisters in Crime friend, and she organized the Sisters in Crime anthology Mystery Merge, Colorado Mystery Merge. She's a really cool lady, and 8 weeks to a book. And her attitude is you outline, 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 you fill in the slots, done. And I would like to be like that.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
something
think
that
I
takes
could do that.
years. How long have you taken to write your books, Kathleen? How long does each book take?
Usually about a year. Um, I wrote one, um, a different mystery. It's still sitting out there. I wanted to try and write in different points of view. And that one I finished in 3 months. It was easier for me to write in different points of view. So, and that was a lot of fun. But, it usually takes me about a year to
Why'd
finish
you
one.
set that one aside?
Because because I have three others that I need to push out there. So, I mean, this other one is done. It's a British, quirky British mystery set in different points of view, and I really, really like it. But yeah, I just have to get these others done first before I do anything with that one. But so I learned something. I learned that I enjoy writing in multiple points of view.
That's neat. I can't wait to see it. And
Me too.
what's your, Amber, do you have other questions of yourself as well? I don't want to.
I don't think so.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Galit?
I think anything else I have to add, I'll write about it because I got all kinds of ideas from today.
I'm curious to know if your outlining works for you.
I'll
So
let
let
you
us know. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
I
And
don't think I could do it that way.
I'll put information about that 8 weeks to a book. Who is the author?
Becky Clark.
Becky Clark. I'll put a link to that below if I can find it. And I'll also put a description of everybody's contact information and books and stuff below. So if you want to read Kathleen and Galit's books, you can find them.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking with us today.
Fun.
Thanks for doing this. It was
Yeah.
lovely.
Fun.
Do
And
it again sometime.
we will do it again. That's right. Read a cozy mystery.
Yes.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.